Hey, welcome to another episode of the Nomadic Millionaire podcast, where we interview nomadic entrepreneurs from all around the world that are making an impact and really focus on technology, AI, blockchain, as well as digital marketing and affiliate marketing. And so, with that said, I'm super excited to have special guest with us today, Jason Sarju. He's the co-founder of Adretreaver. And with that being said, welcome to the show, Jason. Appreciate you being here.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, let's get right into it. First, just let us know a little bit about yourself and your role at Adretreaver.
Sure. So Jason, we started Adretreaver roughly about 3 years ago, right before the start of pandemic. So right around 2019, a couple of the guys with us came up with this crazy idea, how to do some work completely different than what everybody else was doing in the industry without giving away too much. We all thought it was a pipe dream. And until finally somebody came up with the idea how to write the source code for it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of took off from there. So we wrote the source code. The pandemic hit at the beginning of 2020, and then all of a sudden everybody's in their house. Once everybody's in their house, you got 24/7 glued to your screens, all eight of them
Mhm.
that everybody has in their house pretty much, right?
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
software went in and started doing its thing. And then all of a sudden we blew up. We went
Mhm.
from literally doing where it was like I think it was maybe like $10,000 a month to like 185,000 plus, easy
Nice,
overnight, right? It just blew
nice.
up, and the momentum kept going from that point on. So we're predominantly like to consider ourselves AdRetrieve as a software company.
Mhm.
We provide solutions for people depending on what their situation is, digital marketers specifically.
Okay.
So we actually build out a lot of digital marketing software. So my specific role right now is a CMO. I'm the head of the marketing division and try to best way to put all our products out. After that specific software launch and kind of took off, which we call was Ad Verifier. And basically what that software was, the gist of it is that we partner with a bunch of agencies and bigger companies that have clients that need internet marketing or digital advertising posted somewhere. The
Mhm.
problem is that when you have so many people to deal with, how do you keep track of them? The manpower numbers behind it is bananas. You can't just have somebody sit there and say, okay, let's go look at these ads. So what we did is that we created an algorithm that goes out and went and looks at all these ads and make sure that they're checking off all the right boxes, that they're not saying anything that they're not supposed to, anything illegal, driving traffic illegally or anything like that. So that's what the ad verifier software does. And then using that baseline, that source code, we were able to build what we're now calling Push Giant. Push Giant was launched in 2020 at the end, I'm sorry, the end of 2021. And what it predominantly is an AI driven, and I use the term AI very, very, not loosely, but very, very seriously,
Mhm.
because it is a learning AI. And what it does is that it takes the whole process of getting SEO done and it compacts it into one little small little package and just let it run. So what happens
Okay.
is that if I am a new business owner and I have zero presence on Google, I don't have, if somebody goes to search for me, I'm coming up on page 50 of something.
Mhm.
My URL has no domain authority on it. I have no content, or if I'm in the process of just creating content now to get out there, nobody's going to find me. So let's say I have a cake shop here in New York and all of a sudden, I'm typing in cake shops near me or my potential customer typing cake. I'm not going to come up on that list. It's going to have the 50 other cake shops that's been on there a lot longer than me coming up. But
Yeah.
what makes me different is that I have this great new croissant that everybody wants.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
am I going to get that out there, right?
Nice.
So you come to guys like us and you say, hey, Doug, Jason, I got this product. I want to push it out. How do I do it? So what we do is that we take the software called PushShine. We take your URL, we load it in, and we build a campaign. And then what we do is that the AI takes that and we replace that and say, okay, how much traffic can I get to this website so I can make it move from page 5 to page 4 to page 3? Like, how much traffic needs to go here? So we
Mhm.
figure out what that need is. And then what we do is that we set traffic based on the need to that specific website. And how do we do that? We literally search for the keywords that are associated to your big shop or whatever your brand is. And then we
Okay.
go and we click on that website and that we find it in the list of pages that it is. We click on the
Mhm.
website and then we browse the website and we send traffic to it that way. So that
Okay.
in a nutshell is what Push Giant is. It really just pushes traffic to get you from page 5 to page 1. Now, granted, yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this, right? It's not just going to happen in a week. Oh my God, I'm from page 5. No, it
Yeah.
depends on your market. You could be a little fish in a big pond trying to infiltrate a market that's not as easy to get into, like say the United States. And I'm using cake shop as an example because it is a very hard keyword to rank against, considering there's so many bake shop places and whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is around New York City, right?
For sure.
So your market spent depends on how fast you can get ranked. Now, let's say you're in
Yeah.
a smaller country. Say you're in Bali right now. Let's say you're
Yeah.
trying to rank against other places in Bali. We can move you up way quicker in Bali because it's a
Mm.
smaller market. It's a niche market. So
Okay.
depending on the urbanization and the density of where you're at and the demographics that you're trying to rank against, it can take
Mm-hmm.
anywhere between a month to 6 months to a year, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on what your penetration is trying to get to, where you're trying to get, how fast you're trying to get. But what
Right.
makes us a little bit different than most people out there is the fact that we help you. Like if there's specific keywords that you want, we'll also find words that you can rank against faster while
Okay.
still coming up. So it's kind of like a partnership. We don't just say, okay, here's the software, go use it. No, we kind of like marry the two together and say, hey, look, we have an in-house SEO expert. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
review your website. We're going to tell you everything that you need to fix on the website, optimize this, change the headers, change all of this stuff, and then load all these keywords into the website, then let the software do its thing. So I kind of
Gotcha.
gave you a long explanation for a short thing, which is really getting you from page 5 to page 1 using
Nice.
AI as the tool that drives the actual SEO aspect of it.
Interesting, interesting. No, that sounds pretty robust, and it sounds like you guys got started at exactly the right time when everybody was glued to their screens, and marketing became such a more important factor for all these
Mm-hmm.
businesses, especially online marketing. Now, it sounds like AI is doing a lot of the work, but it's also a partnership as well. How important do you see SEO these days? Because I feel like a lot of people focus on PPC, and
Mm-hmm.
SEO kind of falls to the side a little bit, although it's still super powerful. I mean, being able to rank in Google is obviously super powerful. How important do you see that for entrepreneurs these days, whether you have a digital marketing agency or you're an affiliate or you're an enterprise?
It's a good question. Um, SEO, I don't think is going to go anywhere. I think
Mm.
if you want to be successful in anything you do, you have to have an omni-channel approach. If I'm trying to reach you or if somebody's trying to reach me, you don't just have one way to reach me. You have an email. You can phone call me. You can text me. You can go on our website, right? So there's an
Mm-hmm.
omni-channel approach to how you reach me. Why should your business only have one way or one style for people to be exposed to you, right?
True.
So SEO is not going to go anywhere. You can still do all the CPCs, you can do all the campaigns, you can still run everything that you want to do. But if I, at the end of the day, as a potential customer of yours, go on the internet and cannot find you, or you're lost in the myriad of other things,
Mm-hmm.
that's one potential customer that you could have lost. And the reason why I say this is because, yes, generationally, let's think about it generationally, right?
Yeah.
You have this younger generation that's coming up, the Gen Zers, right? That the way they search and the way they look for things is completely different from me, a Gen X,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're probably a millennial, right?
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
like completely different the way our minds think. For me now, our generation now is the one with all the money because we're at this
Mm-hmm.
stage in our life. We're all 40 plus. We're all moving up. We're at the top end of our careers where we're making the most money that we can. But not all of us are searching the same way as a Gen Z is, right? If I search, I'm not going to look for this. I'm going straight to Google and type in exactly what it is I want, hit search, because
Yeah.
I grew up with the internet working this way. This is
Right.
how I understand the internet to search for it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to search for it that way. So it really comes down to who you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach a specific demographic and you understand, okay, I need to reach the TikTok audience, great. You go that route, you market that route, you do exactly what you do. But if your product is trying to have as big a reach as possible, you want to explore every avenue that you can. And
Mm-hmm.
for SEO, and as still people still think, it's magic because some people don't understand it. They know there's some logic behind it and there's math and data behind it, but a lot of people don't understand it, right? So we're trying to take out the mysticism out of SEO and say, here's
Nice.
the science, here's AI, and we're using AI as the buzzword because that's the big thing these days.
Exactly.
ChatGPT, Bard, and all these things are people like, they took our jobs. AI is going to, no, it's not. AI is just going to help you enhance what you do. If you see it as something that's going to take your job, you're going to treat it as such. You're not going to adapt it.
Hmm.
And what happens? You get fall by the wayside, right?
Exactly.
So that's how
It's
you
a
have to
tool.
look at it. It's a
It's a,
tool.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess in summation is what you're saying. I think you
Hmm.
need SEO no matter what your strategy is. Don't exclude it
It's
because
interesting what you said because yeah. Go ahead. I was just gonna say like it's interesting because like also Google is now starting to show shorts and reels in their search
hmm
results as well. So they're kind of so that means Google and SEO is still a big part of it. Whether you're doing short form content or the Gen Z
whatever it
stuff,
is.
like it's still a big part.
Yeah, it's not gonna go anywhere. It really isn't. It's going to evolve. I mean, Google I/O just happened last week, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of see where the direction of search is going, how they're going to integrate their AI Bard into search. It's going to change how it is. It's going to come. Search is going to become very conversational.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that going to be powered? And this is the part people don't understand is that in order for your product to come up in the new Google search is going to be rolled out over the next 5 to 10 years before it really gets adapted. You have to lay the groundwork now for your website in order to be optimized for somebody to find you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that the AI is going to work is that if I search, I need a new, where can I find a new bike? It's going to pull it up in such a way and it's going to give you the closest bike shops around you with stuff that you want. And then you click on it and you kind of start having an interaction with the AI. Okay, I need a red one. It'll pull it
Mm-hmm.
back down, but it's like a red one. I need one under $5,000. It's going to go back and refine it, right?
Yeah.
So if your website isn't optimized to plug into that algorithm for
Right.
AI, you're going to be left in the dust
Mm.
because
Dang.
now all of a sudden you're not going to have 5, 6, 7 pages of search to go through and now you're trying to get to one. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're fighting to be at the top of the algorithm when somebody's searching for a product similar to yours. So you still have to do the SEO ranking, you still have to get your keywords to do what you want it to do, so that way when the bard integration really rolls out with all of Google and all their search, you're
Mm-hmm.
still coming up as a relevant search term for what people want.
Interesting, interesting. So, what are some things entrepreneurs can do now to get ahead of that in terms of SEO? Like, what are some actions that they can take at the moment?
Right now, it's kind of like this. I kind of like preaches the same thing, right? The Bible
Yeah.
hasn't changed when it comes to what you need to do for SEO. Make sure your website optimized for mobile across all is agnostic. You know, websites for desktop, tablets, cell phones. Make sure it's absolutely optimized. That's the first thing. Make sure your content is punchy and you're posting regularly. Those 3-line blog content goes a long way. You read an interesting article about something related to your business or within tech or whatever it is, repost it, get it on your website. Take the time to create content because content is king. It really, really, truly is. Content is king. Also, you got to take the time to invest in your social media, man. Like IG and TikTok, it's you have to do it, whether you don't want to or not. If you need to hire somebody to do it, you
It's a
have to do
necessity
it.
now.
It's a necessity. I mean, look,
Right.
Gary Vee says it. He built his
Mm-hmm.
entire career off of social media,
Yeah.
posting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day until it just grew and it grew and it grew. You have to put the time in. You want it to grow, you want to get your business done, put the time in because what's going to happen, they're going to go from these social platforms and they're going to come back to your website and they're
Mm-hmm.
actually going to need everything there. So your website has to be optimized. And then once that's done, you still have to cater to the other side of the demographic that still wants your product, that's not using social media, that's going to use search. So you have to make sure that your keywords are optimized. You have to make sure that your site loads quickly, that the media that's on your site isn't taking 50 million years to load when
Mm-hmm.
something you could be loaded in 5 seconds, right? So these
Yeah.
are the key things that I think that are never going to change. Websites are never going to go anywhere. They're not disappearing off the web. If anything, they're going to evolve. Don't know what that evolvement is going to be yet,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to evolve, right? It's going to evolve. I
Yeah.
mean, you go back from 1999 and you look at what websites used to be like in GeoCities and these, back then when Prodigy was a thing and you're trying to build these websites. I was building websites in freaking
Right.
HTML.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is cool." and
Right.
now you
Don't
look at
work
it,
out.
what's going on now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
It's
so
just
we don't
evolved.
know what the evolution of the website is going to be, but as
Mm-hmm.
far as one thing I can say with confidence
Mhm.
is that people and their curiosity to find something, to search for something, isn't going to go anywhere. So the
Right.
search engine is not going to go anywhere. The way we search will evolve,
Mhm.
but all of that is still underlying of how your content can be found, or your brand or your product can be found. Because when Google launched back in 2001, 2002, when they really pushed it out and everybody started using Google, they were indexing sites. And if you used to look at Google, at the bottom of their site, it used to say 125,000 sites index. And then that number just grow and grew and grew,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So with AI and the way BART is supposed to work with this, and even with ChatGPT with Bing, it's all going to be built off of all those index sites, right? And that's how search evolved, was based off of all those index sites. So finally they removed the index and they just search. So
Mhm.
I'm looking at the way I'm thinking, I could be wrong, I could be right, I don't know. But the way I'm thinking about it is that all your optimization has to get in now. Everything that you need to do in order for people to find you needs to happen now. So that way,
Mhm.
when this new layer of search finally, overtakes Google, you're already in the driver's seat. You're
Yeah.
not playing catch up.
Yeah.
So
It
you got to
comes.
think that 2 steps ahead, right? You have to think
Mhm.
2 steps ahead of it. So, but yeah, and the other
Absolutely.
part of it, you have to embrace it. It's not going to go anywhere.
Right. Exactly. Like you have to embrace the common technology. It's like, and it also doesn't matter what type of business you're in. You still need social. You still need content. You could have a
Absolutely.
roofing company. You could have. It's not necessary just for influencers making content and optimizing all these
And I
different things
think
for.
you're right, and I think that's the big part of it. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm not an influencer. I'm not selling nothing. I'm not." It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be that. It really doesn't. If you want to sell your content, and not content, but if you want to sell your product, you
Mhm.
have to have a social media presence. Use
Yeah.
the influencers as a tool to push your product. Use the IG ad network. Use TikTok's ad network to
Mhm.
push. Literally, TikTok gives away about $10,000 per month just for people to create ads
Hmm.
to push on TikTok. It's
Yeah.
bananas.
Wow.
It is bananas, right? So
That
if
is
you're not
wild.
tapping into that and you're not using that, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And I like what you said. I mean, it's kind of like SEO is kind of like email, right? Email has been around and it's not going anywhere. Same thing with SEO. It's not going.
It's
It's going to
not.
evolve, but it's going to be around for sure.
I mean, one
Um,
of the things that we started doing too, as you mentioned in email, is
yeah,
we have an entire access to a list of 30 million
wow,
opted in that we mail on regularly still.
wow.
Email still converts.
Right? It's people still check their email every day, you know?
Exactly.
Right?
Email still converts.
It's crazy. It's one of the best, yeah, probably one of the best traffic sources you could have. So tell me a little bit more about your journey. Were you always an entrepreneur? How did you get into marketing and then into this project?
That's a very, very interesting question. I started way back in, I want to say around 99, 2000, almost 20,
Okay.
wow, 23 years ago. Holy crap.
Yes.
Um, in call center work.
Okay.
I was supposed to be in school for something else. 9/11 happened. I lost my sponsorship, for school. So I had to find a job. So I was like, screw this. I just need a job. I need a job right away. So I fell in ass backwards into a call center job. That was funny enough, believe it or not, servicing Bell South DSL. This was right when
Oh
DSL
wow.
came out, before broadband, before,
Wow.
fiber.
It's like
This
right.
was
It's like
from dial up to
right. It's
DSL.
like that thing right after 56K. Yeah.
Pretty much, pretty much. And so I started in the call center stuff, and um, it was interesting because you learn a lot about technology. I think that's when I started to figure out I like technology and I like certain things about what I was doing. So fast forward a couple of years of doing that. Yeah, I met some contacts, made some great friends that are actually now my business partners and friends. We've been friends for, God, 20 something years at this point. And we just kept moving. Everybody kept moving, moving, moving. The first foray into marketing was with a company. I don't know if you remember this, called Equinity Interactive. Equinity Interactive starting around 2004, 2005. And this was when Coverage and all this stuff, and hey, fill out this information, we'll send you free
Yeah.
golf clubs, or we'll send you DVD players, and we'll send you cameras. And it was all the giveaways. It was a prize giveaway. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
got into internet marketing. That's where
Okay.
I entered internet marketing.
Wow. That's
Equinity at the time was probably the biggest one in the country. It was huge. It just blew up, ridiculously blew up. And all these other companies popped up, offer it, and everything else. So
Mm-hmm.
I started there. That's where I really got that first taste of digital marketing and, oh, we can do this, and here's how you can make money off of this, and how you can move into this, and, that whole
Yeah,
big picture.
for sure.
Did that for a little while, and I mean, being really honest with you, I got tired of it. The market kept changing. The FTC came in and said, "You guys can't do this no more. You can't do that anymore. You can't mail like this." And it's like all these laws got written because of Equinity and the stuff that they were actually doing and how we were doing it. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I needed a break. So I stepped away from everything, and I just said, I've always been interested in a sense. I've always been into like insurance and managed insurance and healthcare insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking for a job just to get something to do. And I started working for Emblem Health and managing their whole setup. Because I had this call center background, all these, insurance company have a bunch of inbound call centers. So I was like, you know what, let me find something. I was like, okay, whichever one's going to pay me the most is the one I'm going to go work for. And it turned out to be health insurance, which
Okay.
was, well, at the time it was was it HIPAA, but now it's now
Yeah.
Emblem Health. So I
Yeah.
started working for them. And then from there, I moved from there. I moved to another health insurance company, and I was there for a really long time.
Mm.
And then after that, I was like, I got tired of working for these giant companies. Like I got really tired. The red tape, every time I wanted to do something, it was just blah, 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 blah. It was too much to go through. And I
Yeah.
got tired of it. Keep in mind, got my boys who we're all started the same, we're all kind of like doing our own thing. We weren't really thinking about anything about putting anything together yet. It wasn't, all that was there. We all knew we got tired of working for people. We just don't know how we were going to get out of that trap yet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
plan was formulating, everything was
Right.
there, it just wasn't coming together yet.
For
And
sure.
but the good thing about it is that I'm doing all this other stuff. We're all doing all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the last company I with, this was again right before the pandemic. I was around 2018, 2019.
Uh-huh.
And that's when we started talking about all this other stuff. And we started saying, hey, like one of our partners, Vanu, Vanu,
Mm-hmm.
he was with this company, Site Impact, and, they needed something. And we were able to actually come up with something that actually worked. And that's kind of like how the entire market shifted for us. And that's where we started working, saying, okay, let's build this business.
Mm.
In the meantime, I wasn't even over there full time yet. I was still working for another company in health insurance, PWN Health, which was really telehealth at the time and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I noticed I started having to shift to smaller and smaller and smaller companies. I
Mm.
started moving from these big companies that you went from a 500 employee seat to like a 200 employee seat. Now I'm working for less than 50. I was employee number, I think 20 something for
Oh
the
wow.
last company I was with before I came over here full time. And I loved it.
Nice.
Absolutely loved it. It gave you a chance to flourish. It gave you a chance to get all these ideas out. I had
Yeah.
direct access to the CEO. I didn't have to like walk through three different hoops just to get something approved. So
Yeah.
that aspect of it really changed my mindset and saying, okay, I can't work for big companies anymore. It's time. Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys need to figure something out and start getting something done on your own. And working through all of that, and again, parallel now, the other company, Adretreaver, started. And
Uh-huh.
now I'm here, Adretreaver's here, and we're kind of like going in the same direction. This one's going a
Okay.
little bit faster, but this one's still here. We had ideas, stuff was working. We started putting stuff together, it was going. And then
Yeah.
again, the pandemic hit. And the crazy thing, and this is bananas. I sit back and I think about it now. So PWN Health, which was a
Mm-hmm.
telehealth teledoc company, basically what they did was if you need a consult with a doctor, you are able to get a consult over the phone, get a prescription written to you, and even delivered to your house without ever leaving.
Wow.
What is that the perfect formula for?
This is the
A
pandemic.
pandemic.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's wild.
PWN Health went from a $12 million a year business to
Mm-hmm.
$150 million in 8 months.
What? That's insane.
Bananas.
Wow.
Bananas. So PWN took off. Ad Retriever now took off as well because, and
Right.
now they're going parallel to each other. And I'm
That's
like,
all.
okay, I mean, both of them, we're doing both of them at the same time. I'm
Uh,
here, they're there. It's like, okay, what do we need here to get this moving? And it's moving, it's moving, it's moving. And then
uh-huh.
finally it got to the point where it's like, listen, I need to make a decision. You got to either jump in
Hmm.
with both feet, but you can't sit the fence anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when the decision happened. It was like, okay, we're going to do Adretreaver. We're going to sink all our money, all our time, everything into this, and we're just going to make this work. There's no plan B.
Right.
It's only
This is
plan A
it.
because plan B distracts from plan A, right?
For sure.
So
For
you
sure.
stay in plan A, you just go with it. And
Exactly.
that's kind of like how we got to where we were. And again, we were small. And the thing is that I tell people is that I'm a big believer in this. I'm like, everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Your
Mm,
friendships, your relationships, your career, everything happens in its own time and you can't rush it.
mm,
And me, myself, and a couple of the other guys, Purdue and a couple of other guys, we had a conversation the other day and we realized it's like, as much as the stuff that we tried and we failed, everything we learned brought us to this point because you couldn't be successful now if we didn't go through all the stuff that we went through, all the failure that we had, all the learning experience that we have. Because everything that we've learned over those last 10 to 12 years is now
mhm.
coming into play to make this successful. So that's why when people say you got to trust the journey
Yeah,
because
that's right.
you don't know what you don't know. And
Mm,
until you get into a position where it's like, holy crap, if this had happened 5 years ago, we'd have been up shit creek
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
You
you
just
didn't
didn't
know
have
what
the
you didn't know,
experience.
right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Wow.
it's like the biggest thing about being an entrepreneur are just you want to work for don't ever give up. Do
Mhm.
not give up. Don't listen to people. People talk fear into your plans. You know why people talk fear into plans? Because they don't believe enough in themselves to go out and take that first risk. If
Mm,
you
true.
believe enough in yourself to take that risk, take the risk.
Hmm.
Take the risk. The
Yeah.
one thing you'll never get back is time.
Yeah.
You can make more money, you can make more whatever else you want, but you will never make more time. And the longer you procrastinate to do something, the longer it's going to take you to get to where you want. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Hmm. Exactly. That's so true, man.
Make up your mind and say, I'm going to do it and push for it. Are you going to fall? Absolutely. Are you going to get issues that you don't come up with? You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You'll
That's the
figure
only
it
way to
out.
learn. Yeah. It's the only way. You
That's it.
gotta fail and learn, and then
You'll
that's the
figure
only
it
way
out,
with
plain and simple.
entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's wild, man. No, I totally agree with that. I think I like what you said about it being your time, right? Because there's a million times that you might have tried something, it might not have worked. It just wasn't it's just not the right
Hmm.
moment. You just gotta, and the only way to get to that point of success is just, like you said, to keep trying. You know,
Yep.
what were some like biggest challenges that you faced with Adretreaver? As like
Oh
you said, you
boy.
guys were pretty small, and you started.
Hmm.
I think it was three of you guys, yeah, or yeah,
Yeah, it started with a 3, 4, and then it kind of branched off, and
yeah.
we got developers in, and then we kind of grew from about 4 to about 20 in like 8 months, 6 to 8 months, or something like that.
Oh wow, wow, that's wild.
Uh,
So
but the
yeah.
biggest challenge, like you said, that man, it's learning how to manage people.
Hmm.
When you grow so fast, sometimes you don't have the time to put the effort in that you need to. Because I'm a strong believer is that you don't manage people, you manage personalities.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to manage or speak to the person that's reporting to you, you're not going to get the most out of them. You hear this whole saying going on, quiet quitting.
Hmm. Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
was
I've
none
been
of
seeing
that.
that.
I'm like,
I've been seeing that on TikTok. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, quiet quitting. Okay, the reason why you're quiet quitting is because you figure that, you're not getting or being heard from the people that you should be talking to or whatever it
Mhm.
is, right? Or you're not fulfilled in your job or you're just lazy,
Right.
plain and simple, right?
Yeah,
Some people are just lazy.
yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge that some of us had where like for a couple of our partners never really managed people before. Like, so I've been managing people since I was 22. I've been in a
Mm,
management position, right? I've
yeah.
held directors positions, VP positions. Like I've been managing people for a very long time. Stepping into a role that required to manage people was very easy, but some of my partners was not so easy because they didn't have that, that
Yeah.
career that actually pushed them to manage people. Yes, you were managing people, but you weren't really managing people. You were running a
Hmm.
department that everybody knew what they should be doing, and you're the person that's designing and the architect, right? So creating a culture is hard.
Oh yeah,
It
that's
is
for
hard.
sure.
It
Yeah.
is hard. For a small company, you think it's easier than it's really not, because when you have so many people from different backgrounds, and plus you're spread out, everybody's remote.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
has a different mindset about how they should work and what they want out of a job. And here we are spread out across 3 countries in I don't know how
Mm.
many different states, and we're
Yeah.
trying to make this thing work, and it's hard. That was our biggest problem, was to create a cohesive vision that everyone could buy into and say, we're going to make this work. This is what we want. This is the type of culture that we want to promote. This is the type of employee that we want to hire. This is the type of people that we want to promote to higher positions within our company.
Mm.
That was the hardest part. We seeked help outside. We seeked help from a bunch of people that we can, to say, okay, here, what are we doing wrong?
Mm.
What is it that we're doing wrong, right? And really and truly, it gives you a much bigger appreciation for HR and
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much they really do for a company in creating
Mm.
that work environment that's either really great or really toxic.
Right.
It's one or
Right.
the other. There's no in between, right? It's either you're
Hmm.
really going to love the company you work for or you don't.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, right?
Mm.
And there's another saying that says people don't quit companies, they quit managers.
Mm. Yeah.
So if you don't know how to communicate, it's going to be a problem, right? One thing I
Absolutely.
stress to people is that read. I never graduated college.
Mm.
I'm like, what, 20 something credits shy from graduating college, but it wasn't for me. It really wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I read a lot, right? And
Nice.
one thing I tell people to do is, what you don't know, you can always find something out there to read that'll help you. And if you
For
read the
sure.
right books and you do the right steps that you see, you're going to learn what you need to learn. The education with the internet, the education is out there. You just
Yeah.
have to look and want to learn it, right?
Oh, it's
So
limitless.
yeah. So the biggest challenge for us was just like the managing and the culture of what we wanted to create with this company to keep people motivated. That was the hardest part.
Wow.
Everything else we kind of like learned. Yes, you figure out payroll. There's months where it's like, holy crap, how you're making payroll, right? But you figure it out.
Yeah.
You figure
Yeah.
it out.
Mm.
And the other part of it too is sometimes you need to understand that you got to clean house.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
Sometimes you don't have the right person for the fit. And sometimes you keep people on because out of a sense of loyalty. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they also have to understand that you have to pull your weight. They have to pull their weight. You can't be the one that's on the top of them saying, hey, get this done, get this done, and they just feel that they don't have to, or they're not performing at the level that you want. Right.
Right.
And you can't keep people on out of a sense of loyalty. You have to do what's best for the company, because if you do that, you become stagnant. And instead of getting
Hmm.
from there to here, just going to stay here. Or worse, you're just going to start dropping off.
Exactly. It just ships the whole sink, right? Like, especially
Hmm.
if you don't have people on the same page. And like you said, especially with the manager too, right? So I think it's a lot of it is like a collective effort. You have HR, you have managers,
Hmm.
and you got to get everybody kind of motivated and inspired in the same way. Um, but yeah, man, and also like yeah, like a lot of people think that education stops once they graduate college. When
It
it's
doesn't.
really when it starts, right? I feel like
Yep.
it's a lifelong journey. So there's so much more you can learn, especially these days.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to always be a student, man. The minute you think you know everything, you're done. You're
No,
done.
definitely. But it is a unique challenge, like considering that this whole pandemic has spawned kind of all these global remote companies. We're dealing with something we've never dealt with before, and you basically have people from all kinds of different backgrounds and all kinds of different time zones. And so that definitely presents a unique challenge that where
Hmm.
before it used to be everyone's in the office in New York and everyone's on the same page, but now it's just like, yeah, people have different working styles. And what's I guess what's the biggest thing you can do to motivate a team?
Oh, that is a
If you
great
have some.
question.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things we've had to struggle with, in a sense, and to figure out for our own selves how we wanted to do that. You would think money motivates everybody. It doesn't. It
Mhm.
really doesn't. Not everybody's motivated by money. People are motivated by satisfaction in their job. They're motivated by intrinsic accomplishments that they're trying to get done educational wise. Hey, I'm here now. I'm learning this now. I want to really be able to learn how to do that. That's
Mhm.
motivation for them. And then, yeah, there's the person that says, great, I'm not here for thanking me or patting me on the back, right?
Yeah.
Give me it at the end of the year when my bonus hit. That's how you thank me. And they'll continue
Mhm.
to bust ass all year to do that because that's what motivates them, right? And then
Yeah.
you have the other folks. It's just like you need to assure them, hey, oh, you're doing a great job. You completed all of this, but and so there's three different ways to really motivate people. But one thing I
Mhm.
learned is that in order to really motivate people, you have to have them see your vision. You have to inspire. If you can't look Steve Jobs, for all the flaws that Jobs had, that man, when he got on stage, you wanted that goddamn product by the time he was done with
Yeah.
it.
For real.
Because,
Yeah.
because it could have been short.
Yeah.
Android had 10 different things ahead of an iPhone, but
Yeah.
everybody still wanted an iPhone, regardless it didn't have cut and paste at the very
Exactly.
beginning, right?
Not even cut and paste, but he
Basic,
did it.
basic
But he
thing,
did
right?
it.
But he did
For
it
sure.
because he
Yeah.
inspired everybody. He inspired an audience. He inspired
Hmm.
his developers. He inspired everybody to do and push behind this product,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like the same thing as leaders. If you take the time to understand what motivates your employees,
Hmm.
and that happens by spending time with them, one-on-ones. One-on-ones are the best key right? And it's like I'm a big person on mental health.
Yeah.
One thing I learned during the pandemic, and it breaks my heart as a director of patient care, and I have a bunch of people reporting to me. They come into the office every day. This is before the pandemic. Rohil, I'll tell you, at it was June of 2020. I got a phone call at 1 in the morning, and I don't know why I was up, how I heard the phone, but I did. Picked up the phone, and it's one of my employees saying, "Jason, I am extremely depressed, and I don't know what to do." And I could hear it in his voice that he was suicidal. I got in my car and I drove to the Bronx because that's where he was.
Yeah.
And we had this whole conversation about how the only interaction that people had was when they came to the office and their coworkers. And that environment was how they got out of what they were dealing with at home or by themselves and was able to socialize. So now all of a sudden you take all of that away and now you don't have that social interaction anymore. Now you're dealing with somebody that has all these issues that you don't know
Hmm.
about. But how are you going to know that or learn that if you're not taking the time to develop them individually and spending one-on-one time with them to understand what is going on in their head to say, okay, hey, let me help you out. Let's
Right.
talk about this. Let's do this. Let's do that. Right.
Yeah.
So having that conversation motivates that person, takes their motivation and their loyalty to a company and a department to you even from a 5 to a 25.
For
Because
sure.
now all of a sudden, I'm not just a person. I
Hmm.
am an individual. I'm sorry, I'm not just a number. I'm not just a worker. I am a person that I can connect with, that he's connected with me and understand that I have my own stuff to go through. So when I'm there, I'm going to give my all, right?
For sure.
And it's the same thing. So it's one-on-one spending time and understanding what motivates and having those conversations and understanding what motivates people is important. Every new employee that came on board, I had a questionnaire that I had them. It was 5 stupid little questions. And the questions basically asked them 5 really randomized things, but I designed it in such a way where it kind of told me and gave me an idea as to what they were about, right? And one
Hmm.
of the things questions I put on there is plain as day is, how do you like to receive praise?
Hmm.
Publicly, privately, monetarily, other filled out.
Okay.
And that was one way to get in. So, okay, so now I know, okay, when I go into a conversation with this person, I know if they're doing something great, I got to send them an email out, motivate them, keep them
Hmm.
on task. The other person's that, okay, hey, great. We see you're doing X, Y, and Z, phenomenal quarterly bonus. You ain't got to worry. Your review, you ain't got to worry. That keeps them going. Never have to do anything else, right?
Hmm.
So it's learning that. And now
Interesting.
knowing that when you speak to your company, you do these town hall meetings, it's now, okay, you know how to address everyone. Okay, in the town hall meeting, I got to shout out these 5 people because they did something great. And you keep people motivated because they have to buy into your vision. And if they understand what is it that you're selling, or if it's understand the product that you're pushing, or they understand that you want to go from, level B to level C, they have to understand and see how that's scalable. And
Yeah.
as long as you're willing to put the time in to do that and invest in your people, you'll always be able to inspire them. You'll always be able to get the best out of your folks because that's the only way you're going to move them. But then, like I said, that's one side of the equation. The other side is the people that you just can't hold on to because
Mm.
they're dead
Yeah.
weight. But you're going to learn that. Like you see that. And you
Yeah.
have to cut ties with them. You have to. You
Hmm.
can't keep pulling dead weight behind you because it just slows your momentum.
For sure. For sure. That's a tough balance for sure. Can imagine that's not an easy process, but it goes to
It's
what you
not.
said. It really, yeah, yeah. So one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur for sure. But I do like it is all about relationships. I mean, I think that person like that. I don't think you could have replaced that with a bonus. Like the fact that you drove all the way to the Bronx and you like had this conversation
Yeah,
with them. I don't think that there's definitely money is not the only motivation. So that's that direct
absolutely
one-on-one
not. Yep.
relationship for sure. That's awesome, man. So yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all that. I just want to do you have any advice for entrepreneurs? Any if there's any piece of advice you'd give someone starting off now or someone already an entrepreneur for the next coming year or years?
Do everything.
Yeah.
Do everything.
Mm.
Do, no matter how little you think it is, no matter how small that grain of sand is,
Yeah.
do everything. Everything starts with an idea until you write it down and you execute on it.
Mm.
So if you have an idea or if you think you want to be this or you want to do that, a plan, what is it? An idea, I can't remember, something idea without a
Yeah.
wish, without written down is just a wish, or the
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah.
Same, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Until you write it down and you start saying, okay, how am I going to get it? Look, people say
Hmm.
think it's cliche, but vision boards
Yeah. They
are a
work.
great freaking motivator, man. Like at the
Hmm.
beginning of the year or whenever it is, forget the beginning of the year. You could do a vision board every month if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start it. Just
They
write it
work.
down. Say, okay, this is it. And then here are the steps I'm doing. Every day I'm going to do this thing to get to this thing to get
Hmm.
to this thing to get to this thing to get to this. And you're finally going to get there.
Yeah. It's like
But you have to, it's mindset. It's
yeah.
mindset. The mind of an entrepreneur is completely different from the mindset of the normal folks that's cheap, right?
Hmm.
You're trained from a very young age. Go to school, get out of school, get a job, work, invest in your 401k, retire. That's it. Da, 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 and that's it. I'll give you a perfect example. When I
Yeah.
told my parents that, I'm quitting this job, but they
Yeah.
knew how great my job was, and I'm doing this full time. My mother had a freaking conniption
Oh
because I'm from the
man.
Caribbean, and as a
Yeah.
Caribbean,
You don't
you
do
don't
that.
do that. That's not how, you don't do
Yeah.
things like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's
So
funny.
it's like you have to have the mindset to do it.
Mm.
You have to believe in yourself. You can't live a positive life with a negative mind. Are you going to get depressed? Yes. Are you going to get days that you feel defeated? Yes. For us, even for me, there's times where our business is great, but I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel happy about it. There's something about it in my head that's keeping me back from saying, like I'm not reveling in that moment. And
Yeah.
you're going to have days like that where you feel like everything is great, but you're like, why am I feeling this way? And that's because you have to use that. The way I see it is that use that to stay uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Again, more cliche sayings,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's
cool.
true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely true, right?
It's the
So
only way
it's,
to evolve. You have to
yeah,
be
man, you
uncomfortable
have
to
to do it.
evolve. Yeah. Yeah.
How bad do you want it?
Hmm.
How bad? Like, for me, it's
Yeah.
not about money. And I tell people this, I don't care about money. I care about my time. Money affords me to do what the fuck I want,
Exactly. That's what it's about.
whenever I want it.
Hmm.
That's what money affords me to do. It's not to have a fancy car. No,
Hmm.
I don't care about that. I want my time. I want to wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? I'm going to take off to Bali and go see, bro. That's what I want.
It's freedom, right? That's true freedom. Yeah.
That's
There's a
it.
lot of people that work 100 hours a week, but they can't take, they can't take a Saturday off or whatever. So,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
You
it's
can't.
about being able to do
I
what
mean,
you
and
want.
it's But it's also the flip side of an entrepreneur.
Mm,
Sometimes you're working 7 days a week when everybody else is asleep. You're
true.
working, right? It's 2 in the morning and I'm up on my computer working because I have
Yeah.
international clients in Dubai.
Right.
Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's on the weekend because now people in Australia, it's already Monday, but it's still Sunday in the US, but I gotta work,
Right. Right.
right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. It's just the
so it's
nature
give
of
and
it.
take,
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit
right?
of
So
both.
it's a give
And
and
so a
take.
lot of times you
Hmm.
work hard in the beginning, and then when you're in high school or you're in college, everybody's partying, you're working, and then it pays off down the line. So
Yeah,
hopefully it
absolutely.
does. Yeah. Um, awesome, man. Just want to ask you about. Let's see. I just want to ask a risk that you took that paid off. I guess one would be quitting your job because
Yes,
you'd
that
say
would
that
be the
paid
biggest
off,
one.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, that paid off. I mean, you left a I left a high paying job, took a
Yeah.
salary cut, major salary cut to come work for myself.
Nice. Yeah.
That was the
That's.
biggest risk I take. I'm like, I don't know how I'm paying these mortgages. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how I'm doing this. I don't know how I'm doing that yet. And you figure it out because
Wow.
when you don't have anything else, you make what you have to work, right? And that's why I said
Mm-hmm.
before, it's like there's only plan A. There's no plan B and C because if you have a plan B and C, it distracts from plan A and you don't put your effort into plan A.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because in
That's
the
what.
back of
Yeah.
your head, you're going, well, I got this going and I got that going.
It becomes a crutch. Like that's exactly why I never got a job outside, like after college, because I knew if I had a job, I would get relying on that paycheck, and maybe not make that effort to go full
Mhm.
force into my own business. But and it also like kind of lights a fire under you, right? Like if you don't make money this month, you're not paying the rent or you're not paying the mortgage, so it's kind of a huge motivator.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Say it keeps you motivated. It has to.
definitely,
Yeah, just keep pushing, man.
yeah,
That's it. If you want it bad enough, you'll figure it out. You want it bad enough, you'll figure it out.
for sure, for sure.
Figure it out.
Um, could you talk about real quick any of the changes or trends that you see in your industry in SEO? How
Oh,
Adretreaver is positioning itself for these changes that are coming up?
yeah. I mean, we started touch a little bit about with the AI
Yeah,
stuff. AI is changing the game, man.
yeah,
Like completely. So I started with OpenAI
hmm,
back when they launched in 2017,
oh
2018,
wow,
because I'm a nerd that just
nice.
likes these stupid things, right?
That's
Back
awesome.
then, it wasn't even nowhere near, the model wasn't even nowhere near what it was doing now, right? And that's when
Wow,
you had to pay, like, I think it was like $20 a month just even to have access to it. So, I was in there playing around with it, just seeing what it was about, this, that, and the other, and it had
hmm,
nowhere near the robustness. Then I left it alone for about a year. And then was November of last year, boom, ChatGPT launched. And
yeah,
I'm like, what? So I jump in and I go in and I see all this stuff. I'm like, holy crap.
yeah,
Like my brain went off all of a sudden. I'm like, all of this stuff is going to change everything. It's going to change everything.
100%.
And immediately think about Google. So Google launched their AI assistant back in 2015, I think it was, right? Where they showed it off at Google I/O, where it's like, oh, you need reservations. Just go here, click this, and the AI will call, make the reservations, and call you back and email you saying, hey, it's done. Oh, you need X, Y, and Z typed out, just natural speak, and the AI will understand it, type it out, create the appointment, realize all there that this is an appointment, needs to create it on your calendar. And Google was doing this in 2015, right? Then ChatGPT launched, and Google realized that they were playing catch up, and then they did a shitty launch of Bard in
Yeah,
February.
that was.
That was nothing, and now finally, last week at I/O, they finally released what's going to be the commercial version of Bard
Hmm,
that's going to work, if not if as well, if not better than ChatGPT.
wow.
Now, here's my personal belief. I personally believe Bard will be better than ChatGPT
Hmm.
just because Google has all this data,
There's so much data. It's crazy.
hexabytes of data. You give something that much data to learn from, it is going to outpace everything.
Mhm.
So in terms of search, that's the reason why I keep coming back to the fact that you need to be able to create and set up what you're doing now to be ready for what AI is going to do later. the fact that you can write whole business plans, blog posts, homework, whatever the hell people have been using it for. I know I've been using it to write a bunch of stuff, but I don't copy and paste it. I go back in, I need to change some of this, but it's saving me 25 maybe minutes to an hour just trying to sit there. It's okay, how do I start this? Right? I just type it in. Oh, great. And all of a sudden, just reading it, your brain goes and it's like, all right, I can do the rest, right?
Exactly.
It's going to be the same thing. It's just like it's going to get to the point where it's so intuitive is that you're just going to type in 3 search terms and all of a sudden everything that it knows about you already is going to it's going to know it's already know what your favorite color is. It already knows what time you go to bed. It knows what your schedule is because it's all like
It's all there.
it's all there.
Right.
It's
Everyone's
all
using
there, right?
this. Yeah. People are using Google Maps. People are using Google Search. Like, they got so many data points on people that
So
it's
from
so
an
customized.
industry perspective,
Hmm.
I think yes, search is going to change and it's going to be very much more personalized than what it is now. And the way you make money with that is by doing everything you need to do now to make sure that you're ranked, your keywords, your sites, your content, all this stuff is always going to be where it needs to be because again, it's not going away. Content is king. Websites aren't going away. They're always going to be there. QR codes, links to websites, right?
Yeah.
Linktree, all links to websites, right? So
True.
social media, all links to websites, right? So it's
Hmm.
the same thing. You got to make sure that you're on point when it comes to that. The interesting part about all of this, though, is what I'm interesting to see is that we're touching on this is what Apple is going to do with
Mm-hmm.
AI, and more specifically, what they're going to do with AR, their augmented reality, which they're about to announce on the 5th for
Hmm.
WWDC.
Nice.
I am very, very interested in seeing what they're going to do with this AR stuff because
Hmm.
Google with Google Glass touched on it a little bit, but it just went nowhere.
Hmm.
But this is Apple we're talking
Yeah.
about,
If
right?
Apple's coming out
So
with something, it's
I'm
gonna be
very,
good.
very interested. I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see how they integrate that because I know they're doing a complete overhaul of Siri and how that works. And I know there's a big part of, again, AI that's going to be integrated into that. Who they use, we don't know.
Hmm.
Even if they develop their own in-house, that's a possibility as well, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
sure they've been
it's
working
just
on it.
they have to,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like they have to. They got to do something. And I'm very much tied into the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, but I like tech,
Yeah.
so I'm in
Right.
everything, right? So I
Uh,
try to understand what everybody's doing
hmm.
because it's going to affect my business one way or the other.
For sure.
Um, so so I would say AI will probably be the biggest disruptor when it comes to digital advertising in the sense that it's going to change how everything is done, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I also think this is not something that's going to happen overnight.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not.
It's gonna
It's
take
going
time.
to take a few years. Yeah. It's going to take 3 to 5 years before it's vastly and widely accepted. And the reason why I say that is because you look at the iPhone when the iPhone was launched in 2007,
Hmm.
right? Everybody thought FaceTime was a joke. Oh, nobody's going to use, who's going to use FaceTime?
Hmm.
Because look at the generational difference at the time, right?
Yeah.
It was all the Gen Xers that were in their 20s at the time, right?
Right.
And you guys were like millennials were still what, like 10, 12 at the time, whatever it was.
Hmm.
And then the Z's wasn't even around, right?
Yeah.
And for us as Gen Xers, like, yeah, it's actually like I said, like I'm not FaceTiming nobody. I'm pick up a phone call, I'm gonna call somebody, I'm gonna text them. But
Right.
millennials, you guys are the ones that adopted FaceTime like it was nothing. And
Yeah.
now Gen Zs don't even call you unless it's a video or they're texting you,
All
right?
right. The texting. Yeah. Or
So when
Snapchat or
you ask
something.
somebody how you call somebody, they're calling phones like this instead of like this, right? You ask
Yeah.
a kid, "Oh, how do you use the phone?" They all say this
Hmm.
because it's a
It's just
slab.
like
But
right.
where you
Right.
right, you ask anybody over 40, 35, how you
Completely different. Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's crazy,
so
man.
that's how I see AI
Hmm.
is going to change and how it's going to get adopted. Yeah, so I'd say it's given it like another 5 years or so, but
Oh,
by 10 years from now, it's completely saturated.
although we are seeing adoption go faster and faster, right? Like crypto adoption came way faster than internet adoption. So like every new technology is getting adopted a little bit faster, it seems like.
Hmm.
So maybe the same thing might happen. Yeah, probably like,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe
absolutely.
3 to 5 years. Um, and
I mean, the
yeah,
only problem, the only thing I think
yeah,
crypto got picked up as fast as it is because people saw a way to make money.
true.
And I think
There's
that's
that.
why, right? So
Yeah,
they made this
yeah.
whole big thing with the whole, with everything that was going on with the market and all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And Forex was doing what Forex was doing with crypto. And,
Mm.
you know, everybody just
That
saw a way to make money.
true. And then it's not like people are really using it like it was meant to be used.
Ask anybody who bought Dogecoin or
Yeah,
bought Ethereum or whatever it was, which I don't know, Ripple, I don't know, the myriad of coins that were out
yeah,
there. How many of them are still doing it now? They're not. Like I
yeah.
have Ethereum. I bought
Hmm.
Ethereum when Ethereum was like $50 a
Yeah, yeah.
coin.
Nice, nice.
I was hearing about Bitcoin back in 2008 when I could have
Yeah,
got Bitcoin for like $5
yeah.
and I didn't buy it. I was like,
Dang.
I don't see it. And then all of a sudden it just,
Right? It did take
so,
some
but
time,
because
like 10
again,
years.
right. But I
Mm,
think AI is going to be different because it just changes. It's natural, right? It's one
yeah.
thing to be able to, you watch all these sci-fi movies and you watch Star Trek and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, computer, da 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 da, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
It's going to get to that point, and it's going to
for
get to
sure.
that point. You got Alexa, everybody's using Alexa. You got Hey Google, Hey Siri. All these things are in your home, right? So it's just a matter of, oh, great, my Siri just went off because I
Oh,
said
they're
that.
listening, listening. Oh man.
So, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that. Like Gary Vee talked a lot about voice activated. Like he said, voice activated search is going to be such a big part of our life. You're going to wake up, look in the mirror, like ask it about the weather, stuff like that. Do you see that
Mhm.
happening still?
Oh, absolutely.
Part of
I do that
SEO.
now.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I do that now. Like I
Nice.
personally know, like I have automation set up where the first thing I see pop up is what the weather is, what needs to happen, and you
Yeah.
can create all of that now. I think it's going to get more
Nice.
integrated into our day-to-day life as far as hardware goes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more houses and a lot more places, domiciles where you actually live is going to way. It's going to change the way we live.
Change it.
And that's
Okay.
going to happen specifically, I think, with search and all of this stuff is going to be on the more screens you have, the more easy it becomes for technology to roll out. You have all these foldable screens now and bendable liquid crystal displays, and it'll
Nice.
become way more easier to get stuff into homes, right? If you look at the latest smart homes that are being built, the new homes that are being built, they're fully integrated with automation, right?
Really?
You
Wow.
walk in and there's the iPad and it has everything that's on the iPad. Turn your lights, this, that, da,
Mm.
da, da, da. It knows, okay, when you're like 10 feet away from your house to turn on this, right? So
Wow.
all that's happening now.
Hmm.
The next level of that is for it to do it by itself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's to know, it's to tell you what you need before you need it. And that's a scary thought. It
That
really
is.
is. But as human beings, we're creatures of habit.
Mhm.
We're pattern driven.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody says, everybody has a routine that they're comfortable with. It's the same thing that they do over and over, no matter where they are in the world, no matter
Hmm.
what the time zone is. You're a creature of habit. AI learns habits. And once it understands your habit, it's able to predict what you need before you need it.
Yeah.
Because let's say you have like I live and die by my schedule. So if I know I have to go up the road and all of a sudden it starts raining, all of a sudden I'm going to be like, hey, take an umbrella. It's going to rain.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, I didn't even, what I mean?
Right.
That's
It's
just like
like,
a practical example,
right. And it
right? So
knows.
consider that, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you think about it in the forms of how it's going to integrate with car and automotive and transportation in general, not just personal transportation, but mass transit, the way it can change all of that, right?
Hmm.
It's just a matter of, I think it's adoption. It's like you said before, it's
It's
how
gonna.
fast can we adopt it?
Yeah, it's gonna change like pretty much every facet of how we live our lives for sure. Um, that's awesome, Jason. Where can people find you, and where can people learn more about
Sure.
what you guys offer?
Uh, Adretreaver.com and pushgiant.ai is the two websites. Everything you need is on there. We have blog posts going up and all this stuff. Any that, anybody can reach out to us on there and get a contact us directly. And we're always at the conventions. You'll always find us at all the big conventions that are happening all around. So yeah, the next big one that's coming up is DSA, which is in Scottsdale, Arizona. We'll be there. And then there's another big. We're big on more of the small business expos, like the smaller community, instead of like AdWord and all this stuff. Like we stopped going to all of those.
Okay.
We're more now focused on the business exposition where there's you can go in and you can shake hands with people that actually run businesses and have interactions with them as to why they need to our software or why
Mm,
they need to be thinking about digital. because they don't, right? A
Yeah.
lot of them
Yeah.
don't. So that's more of where we're at right now as far as conventions. But yeah, the bigger ones, we try to hit up at least one, probably AdWorld a year,
Yeah.
just to see the state of the industry and, you know, hear what's going on and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, our website, adretreaver.com, pushgiant.ai.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jason. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been really
No
a
worries, man.
pleasure. I'm sure all our listeners learned a ton from our conversation from about SEO and also just like business advice in general. It was really cool to hear your thoughts
No
on
worries,
that.
man.
Um,
Glad to have me, man.
for,
Glad to have me. Thanks for having
for
me.
sure, for
Appreciate it.
sure. Hopefully, see you again in New York at some point. And
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be good. And thanks for everyone joining. Appreciate you guys joining on another episode of the Nomadic Millionaire podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you guys think about the conversation we had today. Also, I'll leave more information about Adretreaver in the show notes and the description below. And see you guys on the next one. Peace.